should I put my short-term rental in an LLC? Or should I buy my short-term rental in an LLC? I hear that question and get that question all the time. So let's answer it. I actually want to reframe the question, though, in order to answer it. And that is to say, how am I protected? Because it's not just about putting it in LLC, okay? So let's unpack this. The 4 levels of protection: rental agreement, insurance, legal structure, and business practices, okay? So rental agreement. Lowest level of protection is I book a place on Airbnb. My agreement as a guest is with Airbnb, not the host, right? So as the host, I am sort of stuck working within Airbnb's policies, and I'm not necessarily protected because I don't have a direct agreement with that individual. Every one of my guests that stays in any of my properties, they sign a rental agreement outside of the platform with me. Okay, so that's number 1. I have a solid rental agreement. Level 2 is insurance, and insurance is multifaceted. The first level of insurance is your homeowner's insurance. A standard homeowner's policy does not cover short-term rental practices. Most standard homeowner and insurance policies cover up to $2,500 in business expenses. They do not cover commercial activities happening in the home. So if you are using a standard homeowner's policy, you are not covered for short-term rental activities, okay? You need a policy that covers short-term rental activities. The second layer of insurance coverage is liability. You need an umbrella liability policy that covers all of your assets, because when somebody steps outside on the ice and they slip and fall, when a bookcase goes tumbling down, when they fall down the steps, when they slip in the shower and they sue you, if you don't have the money to pay that lawsuit, they can reach through to all of your personal assets, and you can lose your home, you can lose everything, right? So you need personal liability, at least $1 million, ideally 2. And the third level, which is totally optional, I personally like to do it, is third-party damage insurance. Now you can get damage coverage, and damage being, a $200 coffee table was broken, or, a $100 bedding thing, or a $3,000 sofa was damaged by some guests who, brought in their Great Dane who dug at the cushions, or whatever that is. Okay. So damage insurance is just a way of offsetting those smaller costs that can crop up when guests damage the insurance. A couple things about third-party damage insurance. A lot of damage insurance does not cover malicious activity. So make sure you get a damage insurance provider that will cover malicious, and malicious includes breaking rules. So if you have a not pet friendly place and somebody brings in pets and they damage your property, a damage insurance company could see that as malicious and not cover the damage. Okay. So make sure you choose your provider well. I personally like Wayvo. I can drop a link to them in the comments. So that's our second layer, is insurance. The third layer is where we started, which is legal structure. Now, I'm not a lawyer, grain of salt here, but here's how I've heard this question answered by many experts in the field. Number 1 is my early mentor in the industry said, I used to buy in my personal name because it's cheaper and then you get a lower interest rate, and the next day deed it over to my LLC. There is typically in your mortgage instrument a due on sale clause for transferring the deed to someone or something else, right? So there is a level of risk in doing that. That you need to decide whether or not you're willing to do it. Lots of people have said they've never seen it happen, but it could. And so you need to decide whether or not you need this layer of protection, or maybe you should just buy it in the LLC name to begin with. What does it mean? Why is it important? Well, it just creates another layer between you and your personal assets and the short-term rental business, so that in the event of some catastrophic happening, a lawsuit can't reach through to you personally through the LLC. But this is only going to work if number 4 is in play, which is the fourth layer here, which is that you're running it like a business. You're not commingling funds. So there's this concept of piercing the corporate veil. So if there's a legal case and you're trying to mitigate by keeping everything in the business, but they can show that you've been commingling funds. You don't have a separate bank account for the business. Well, clearly it's not really a business then. You're not running it like a business. So Does that mean that you don't get to get any of the profit? Of course it doesn't. Basically, what it means is you set up your own bank account for the business, and then you can do an owner draw on the profit. When you have expenses to the business, if there's not enough money in the account, you can do an owner deposit. And basically, you gain equity by putting money into the account, and then that account pays the cleaners, or it pays the maintenance man, or it pays for the capital improvement, whatever that is. So by having a clear process of running it like a business and keeping all your expenses and things separate, you create another level of separation. And if you're not doing that, then having it in LLC makes no sense. Okay. That is my personal opinion. I've never heard it described quite in the way that I just described it to you, but I know that these things are real. Run it as a business. And if you're going to run it as a business, then great, put it in LLC. If you're going to commingle and you're not going to run it as a business, then you're really mitigating any of the possible things that might be helpful to you. Sorry, I have a meeting coming up in just a moment. So I think I'm going to hop off and get over to that. If you'd like to learn more about this stuff, give a like, give a share, and I'll happy to share more over at the CEO Host.